No. Oh. COA?
No further questions for other parties.
MCI?
No. Mr. Chair, the town of Coventry is back.
Hi.
Is there a question for any of the other parties?
No.
Amy, I'll let you ask your question.
Alexander, it seemed like you had some follow-ups that you wanted, points you wanted to make in response to the questions. So I wasn't sure you have the technical report. First, let me just ask you a couple of questions. Do you recall the cost of that report? I think you approximately.
I wasn't there, but I heard about it.
Is there $60,000 available to the MRC today to conduct another report? And was there money available within MRC's budget to conduct its own sampling of lake implement? In the passage on page 14, that you asked for me, I think there's a part of that that you were not asked about. Can you look at from lines 11 through 14?
Where are you?
I'm on page 14 of her pre-trial testimony. Lines 11 through 14. Did you qualify the statement above? Please read that passage.
The receiving water concentration of a downstream of the Newport wastewater treatment facility within the 5 rivers is currently lower than the DOH health advisory. NEK has not addressed what the effect of the Phase 6 expansion project will be on those levels, or what the cumulative impact will be in the lake at the current level. This again raises the real possibility of the extension project resulting in underwater pollution.
At the time that the technical report was written in 2004, were PFAS compounds an area of concern? Were there other responses that you wanted to give in response to the questions that I was attorney that I haven't covered?
Yeah, we've been asking since the subscription has been authorized in Newport. So since 2009, we've been asking either the company or the commission or A&R to do more studies to see what is the effect of contaminants in the wastewater treatment facility process, to be sure that this industrial effluent was treated effectively to remove all industrial contaminants, because we see that the municipal wastewater treatment facility is made and designed to treat more organic matters that is from municipal waste.
Were there any other limitations to the scope of technical report or its conclusions that you think are relevant to whether that report can be applied to today's circumstances?
The report stated that they weren't able to conclude about bioaccumulation and long-term effects of contaminants in the lake.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Do you want to try to make a phone call, or?
I was just thinking if you give us a break, I can try and make a phone call and see if she's available via phone, but she is in Boston because I was advised by the district coordinator that she would not be on tonight given the schedule. It's unlikely. Highly unlikely, and so I'm reliant on that. Did not bring her up and incur the expense, nor was she available to come up tonight. So knowing that, I was planning on having her come on Thursday. But I can make a phone call and see if she's available telephonically.
we can make her available to any witness that would like to cross-examine her through written cross-examination. We're amenable to work with Casella and
I'll just say that this is news to me. If there are problems with witness availability,
We can come back Thursday.
my phone number was available and I could call them.
We can come back Thursday.
we're willing to come back Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, they've known about the hearing date for months and months. They just don't care for us. I mean, I don't know if those questions are being forwarded to the panel.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well. Are you asking me a question?
No, I was saying, what I was saying is that you know about the hearing date for 3 months. And you could have called them if there was a witness availability before the hearing. And I would have happened. I'm hearing about all this stuff right now for the first time. And it's disappointing.
I can understand that. CLF did communicate with the district coordinator approximately 10 days ago to inform them that we had a witness availability issue and requested that she participate telephonically. And I was informed, and I don't mean to put you in a weird spot, Kirsten, that it should not be a problem, that the commission had never had such a request, but she didn't anticipate it being a problem, but she would confirm with the commission. And so I waited for those 7 days for confirmation, and I only got confirmation on Friday night at 5:30 p.m. that the commission was not inclined to allow her to participate telephonically. And so it left me in this bind where the way that I figured I would solve it is that this is a 2-day hearing, and that given the schedule, it was likely she would not be needed until day 2 of the hearing. So I teed her up to be available on Thursday. She is a professor that has a full-time job, a family, and is traveling 4 hours from Boston. So those were the considerations that CLF took into play.
I mean, I think they knew it was a Friday, and I was working on meetings.
You weren't the only one.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
But they knew it was a Friday, so that be on the meeting.
I think that's an unfair characterization. We had been given information that most likely she would not be needed until Thursday, given the order that was going to be coming out.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
So we had, CLF and the applicant have had a discussion and they decided to,
So the resolution that we have, if it works, is to get the hearing done tonight, I'll waive my cross and CLF witness, as long as we can close the hearing tonight. We can motion to close
And yes, that is an agreement that we accepted.
And I understand MRC is okay with that.
Yes, we are, although we did want to ask the commission about doing post-hearing briefs in order to help summarize all the evidence for you. I think that would be to all the parties' benefit and to the commission's benefit to do that. And then it's close the hearing, accept post-trial briefs, whatever time period after.
I've never done that before.
They're immensely helpful, I will tell you, having appeared before, helpful to you, because there's a good volume of evidence here, and it helps you sort through that evidence.
So we will let all the parties be able to do that.
All the parties would have a chance to file post-hearing briefs summarizing the evidence.
Okay.
I think that's a lot. We can do it for all the parties. There's a more efficient way to do it. We can get together and do one small. I mean,
seriously.
Well, when I said, I think the chance that all the parties are going to file briefs is low. I think given the parties that have participated, my expectation is that there would be 2 or 3 briefs that would probably cover all the issues, and then you would see a handful of other parties filing smaller briefs on their sort of specific issues. So I don't think it's going to be as much paper as my colleague would suggest.
Yeah, and we're happy to help the commission in whatever way the commission thinks is helpful. We can do proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law, which I think are more helpful than briefs.
Sorry, that's exactly what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we're prepared to do that if that's helpful to the commission. If it's just more stuff that you need to read and you don't want to read it, we're happy to do that.
Maybe proposed findings with the page in that.
Now, we'll probably come up with a recess memo. We'll look at that. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to open the floor. If you have some comments, questions, I'd like to hear from Don Fortunati.
So, here's an odor issue. And it's been getting worse as, the last few years it's been increasing. And the way it's, the way I've been calling into A&R to address it, but they're a little ways away. So by the time they get to where you are, these odors will come and go. Sometimes they're there for an hour or two, sometimes a half an hour, sometimes half a day. Sometimes they come back around. These are gas odors, not so much a garbage odor, more of a gas odor. And it's pretty strong. And it's for real, it's not something we're making up here. That's my big concern. I think there should be a better way to respond to the complaints of odor. Maybe an independent third party or something that's in the local area, because the folks from A&R are not close by. There's no field office where they're here every day. I'd like to see that, because, this is the one and only large landfill in the state. You think that the state could afford maybe somebody on site all the time, then respond to these complaints and be right there to witness the odor. The problem is, if you don't get a witness to the odor, it's not considered a complaint. So that's what I'm asking, if we have some sort of safeguard to be set up for the community, people to call in and have a quick response from, a neutral or a third independent party, whatever, that's not biased either way. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
Thank you. My case revolves around air quality issues. And they're caused primarily, in my opinion, but not exclusively, by the trash fleet. And the trash fleet is 120 or 100 or so trucks that travel the length and breadth of the state of Vermont to sell at transfer stations and bring thousands of tons of garbage up. They pass through small villages, they pass by residents, they travel on small state roads. And if you ask people in the kingdom, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What first adverse impact comes to mind? The dump. This is it. The water stuff is really important, and it's especially important to the Canadians, and it should be. But for people on this side, it's the trash fleet. They travel 20,000 miles every day. They have 6.5 tons of nitrous oxide and 2.5 tons of carbon monoxide. And unfortunately, this is only part of the landfill traffic. There's private carriers, there's container tip-ups, there are the residential trucks coming into the land. It's a simple air quality issue, and we need to end it. Casella is probably the largest truck operation in the state of Vermont. I can't think of anything except the post office that might rival them in the number of trucks on the road, and certainly not large trucks. The trash fleet increasingly concentrates as it comes up through Johnson and Lowell, Hardwick, Albany, Irisburg, and by the time you get to Route 5 and 14, which is just down the road, on a busy trash day, there's a truck every 8 minutes. Now, isn't that an incredible number? A truck every 8 minutes. Now, why Casella doesn't push those trucks out to the interstate system that it was designed for, I'm not sure. But it shows two things about the dump that I think are very important. One is the dump's poorly suited. The site's poorly suited. It's at the northern terminus of our state. It's not in a central location. It's not in the midst of a network of well-maintained and well-built roads. If we get this expansion, there's not going to be any more trucks, is there? But those same trucks will keep coming to us. Now, if the expansion is not permitted, yay-hoo, there's no truck issue at all. The other issue I have around air quality is the off-gassing of the decomposing materials. Now, you've heard a significant amount about the odor issue. What's not spoken about is the chemical and mineral composition of the gases created by decomposing waste and blown into our communities. It's the same story regarding particulate matter, just particles that come up from the decomposing process. Think about it like on a sunny day in your house and you see dust in the air. It's the same thing. And just add the wind that's blown across the landfill. And guess what? The prevailing wind blows directly into Newport. Now, not only does it take its odors and those gases that we're not sure of what they are, but they take this particulate matter. And I believe all of those things create a health risk for our community. And Casella's operating permit is based on air quality emissions and impact. Odor's been a long time, and I want to say prevalent issue. I don't care how many reports or what graphs are shown. If you've lived in the kingdom, you've heard all about the odor for a long time. And there's nothing being done about it. Well, I don't want to say that's not true. There's too little being done about it. It's not adequate. In terms of air quality, testing the particulate matter, testing the gases, I don't know anything that's tested. I don't know any step ANR has taken except in regard to methane. The agency collects over $3 million in tipping fees at the dump. I don't understand why there's not monitoring stations all around our communities for particulate matter, for odors, for air quality emissions, for water quality testing. They have the money. I mean, the money comes into the dump. Why aren't they using it? In my opinion, it's an unbelievable regulatory failure. You know, I just don't see it happen. Why don't they contribute real-time data from these monitoring stations to assure us, to do some damn outreach to us, that the dump isn't an evil place, that it's not a health hazard, that it's not a risk? As an environmental advocacy group, our basic issues revolve around health and well-being, and we feel the Agency of the Natural Resources is not a regulatory guardian, and is quite frankly mistrusted and disregarded by the general public on the issues around the dump. You would think at a statewide dump, for instance, okay, it's a statewide dump, 70% of all the trash in Vermont goes to the statewide dump. They collect $3 million. Why isn't there a satellite office up here? Why isn't there some type of A&R employee present at the dump or in Newport every day of the week? Is there a reason that there isn't? I can't see it. And there's many issues surrounding the expansion of this dump that the commission refuses to address. The transitioning, and I'm not sure that's the right word. The transitioning of the Casella dump for a dump for Vermont trash to a dump for increasing amounts of trash from adjacent states. We're taking care of a lot of Vermont, aren't we? Why should we be taking care of New York and Massachusetts? I don't get it. The transfer stations, they're an integral part of the dump. You can't have one without the other. They collect the trash at the transfer station and they send them to the dump. Now, I tried to look into the transfer stations, and I want to say I don't have the best overview of them. It doesn't look to me like they have monitoring wells. It doesn't look like they have adequate surfaces to dump their stuff on. They're temporary landfills that are just treated as, I don't know, come and get the garbage and take it to Coventry. The commission needs to consider the marring of the Kingdom's vision, image as a rural wonder and not an industrial wasteland. Because when you think of Coventry, what do you think of? What's the first thing that comes into your mind? It's the landfill. Call it whatever you want. But we need regional solutions. The commission needs to help us to encourage the state to have a solid waste plan, because quite frankly, Casella is making a statewide solid waste plan. They're doing it in a real capitalistic, legalistic way, you know? And it's there. It's a de facto practice. I feel the commission needs to look into the practices of sorting waste, the inspection and the verification of waste that we were talking about just earlier. And I feel the inept regulatory oversight of the A&R. They all need to be addressed before a permit's issued, not after, before. In 2004, Chairman Reed stated for the commission, we believe there are impacts to the kingdom, but the impacts remain less well-defined than impacts for which we routinely require mitigation. I couldn't disagree more. Just driving by those literal mountains of waste is odious. Our quality of life is affected on a regular basis by the stench that permeates our communities. The dump is a threat to our water, our air, and most importantly, our health and well-being. It creates problems along our roadways, and who, in their right mind, would establish a business or an economic enterprise within the odor zone? I mean, it's just not even, it's not believable. Something needs to be done. And the people that are regulating it are doing it, and the commission, before they issue a permit, needs to look into it. Furthermore, and importantly, our 175,000 Canadian neighbors, friends, economic partners are justifiably frightened by the potential, and I'm going to call it potential, but some people will say real, leakage of chemicals into Lake Nempramego. Until they can be assured, we should not have a permit for expansion. The landfill is an affront to our communities. We have rights through this commission to advocate for conditions and limits on business permits within and around our communities. We have the right to be assured that the expansion of the Coventry dump will not be a risk to our health and well-being. We believe at this point the Coventry dump poses a risk to our health and well-being. And we demand the District 7 Environmental Commission limits the operation and growth of the Coventry dump due to its adverse impacts on our communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask a question to the state of Vermont, Newport Municipality, Coventry, and the company. When I see how much tax the MRC will have to pay, and that's my tax as an individual to get reports, studying years after years since 2004. When I see the debate going on in Canada about it, when I see all these meetings that we have to organize as volunteer or paid staff, the question I'm asking is, I can see the people in Coventry have a tax advantages. Newport make money out of it. The stock market of Canada go up. What's in it for us on this side of the border? What's in for Quebecers? What's in for people who have chalet or house around Lake Memphremagog? Zero, nothing problem. We pay tax and we argue and we get nothing out of it. And as a good neighbors, we asking you, look at it very seriously. We are getting fed up with it. That debate is going on since 2004. Are we going to get back here in 20 years again? Will my children be here in 20 years and my grandchildren arguing against? That just don't make sense. And it's a question of health. You know, we all worry about the pollution of that lake. I don't mind. I don't care what the mayor says. He's getting $200,000 a year to say that. I'm not getting anything. I pay tax just to be here tonight. And I asked you the question, the state of Vermont, the Governor Scott, the municipality, the company, what's in for us in Quebec? I asked the president of Casella at the beginning of the meeting. He just looked at me. He didn't have any answer, obviously. I'm asking all of you people in Vermont, what's up, what's in for us in Quebec in that debate?
Thank you. Yes.
I had a specific question for Ann. I'll look it up when they're sitting there. My name is Anna. I live in Newport. We have had several times tonight about violations. And that there's no action in time. Can you tell us why that is and how is that going to reassure us as we move into the future? If we know about violations and there are people who are willing to have a concern, we know about them, but that there is no action. Why would we believe going into the future that there would be anything positive from that? You know about the violations from other sites in other states. And that has led to closing some of those sites. Does that raise concerns to you guys? And you're stuck in a position of having to monitor this and follow it through. Do you have a response to that?
The state has taken action. The state, it's untrue to state that the state has not taken any action. The state, and is best spoken to probably by Barb Schwender, our compliance chief. She can explain, she already has done so in the pre-trial testimony process for how the state receives complaints, how the state follows up on those, how the state evaluates those. So it's not that we haven't taken action, it's that the majority of those complaints have not risen to the level of meriting further legal action or formal enforcement.
What would it take that?
That has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. So do you have any specific questions for Ms. Schwender from her pre-filed testimony?
You've heard a lot about our quality of life issues here. And that there have been accident violations around that. But what would it take for us to be serious enough to take action?
Are you referring to odor or?
Oh, that's
what
one of
kind of
them.
impact?
There have been issues with leakage. We know that the unlined landfill is, which we definitely know there is leakage from. We that was supposed to be enclosed and capped, God knows how long ago, it hasn't happened, that the phases of the landfill development are being switched around.
Well, let's back up to the odor first.
Okay.
So unlike some of the neighbors that have said it smells everywhere all the time, I mean, we can't proceed on that. We actually need evidence of odors everywhere all the
Would you
time.
like to come and stay
So-
here for a week?
We have done odor control separate from the odor complaints. So because of the difficulty of sometimes getting here on time, or also difficulty where many of the complaints have been reported a day to the companies. After that, because of that, we've done independently looked at, what weather conditions have caused these complaints. Let's get out there, do some control in these neighborhoods where we've gotten the complaints and see what we can do. And we really had a hard time finding anything. The only place I've been able to confirm off-site orders was basically right within view of the working face on Airport Road and along the river.
The neighbor
On
actually
Route 5.
the point is just, why don't you move up here for a while?
Yeah, that would be something at my pay grade to decide, obviously. I'm sure it's, something that should be looked at on the higher levels. But, if we did confirm off-site orders or anything more serious, if the cell wasn't taking corrective action, they just let gas fly out and not fix it or something, that's when we would be talking about more serious enforcement action, we had to do with more town landfill. I was involved in that case, documented many off-site orders kept. Much more severe odors than I've smelled on Airport Road or Route 5. I haven't smelled anything at any of the residences yet. I'd love to, but we have tried. And we've gotten out, and I've walked, not just in my car, I've walked back and forth on the Ridge Road, back and forth, trying to be like as if I was walking in the neighborhood myself, if I lived there, like I might do. And I've not been able to catch the odors at Bob's house. I've been up there many times. So I would encourage people to, keep calling in, call in promptly, let me know when it started, when it stopped, if it did stop, let me know what it smells like. We need to get information to do something more. Basically, if I'm going out every time I'm finding nothing, that's just documenting that there's not a problem instead of that there is a problem.
Wouldn't it be better, Barb, if somebody was local that could, respond to the call quicker? And on
Well, if
Sundays
you're
and
local,
Saturdays,
it would help.
this odor
except-
has no set time, like, the dump has time to open and close. This is not a, these odors,
I understand.
have their time of their own.
That does make sense. The only thing I would add though, if I was local and I got a call 2 days later or 3 days later, that's still not gonna help. So everyone has to do their
Who's
part.
gonna call you on Saturday or Sunday, or after hours or late at night, when it's always coming. Someone is here in the area to respond quickly, if you find it.
Yeah, that's more a management question than a,
I mean, I'm not, I know A&R's limited to their
So, we hear what you're saying. You would like a permit condition that says it be something up here full time.
yeah, as large as this dump is, and as big as it is, the monies that's coming into the state with it, you think they could afford at least some full-time local staff?
You heard it in the back?
Yeah, hi, my name is Jeremy Levy. I just want to provide a little insight as to odor response. I know that there's been some things said about non-responding, but we have installed a 24-hour hotline. That was something we put in the summer. We're diligent about odor every single day of our goals and maintaining proper odor control procedures. And we have a 24-hour hotline that notifies 4 or 5 of us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If there's ever an odor who might call, we encourage everybody to call that. We encourage everybody in the community, because even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, we have a responder that will go out there and respond, and they're trained on how to respond, how to document that. And a new permit condition as part of the solid waste certification is that within 24 hours of us, not the DEC, us receiving a complaint, we need to report all that information to the DEC. Barb grabs that information, she asks us for weather data, she follows up with questions. And so we are actively pursuing odor complaints as diligently as we feel possible, and we are encouraging people to make sure that they tell us, because it is a good indication for us of how well we're functioning if you're having odor complaints. And we don't want people to have to complain about odor. We don't want to have odor. Casella, his entire goal is to not have any odor on that site, right? But it's an operation that we need to focus on every single day. That being said, we have that complaint line, and we want people to use it if there is an odor complaint. And we will respond. And our responders, I live in Derby, we have responders right down the road from in Newport, right down the road from the landfill. So we have responders all over the place that can respond. And it's a text message that gets sent out to 4 people. If they don't respond to the text message, it's an automatic call to those people, so that will wake us up to get up for those odor complaints. So it's very, very robust to make sure that that is actually taken care of. So I just wanted to let you know that that's actively operating.
I read that. What's that phone number?
I got something to say. We had a meeting here 2 months ago, and on the way home, I live on the other side of South Bay, the prevailing wind side. On the way home, we smelled the dump. We rushed back here. All the A&R people were gone. Jeremy was here. We told him to stop in and see that it smelled. The next day, he told us, oh, I couldn't tell where the odors are coming from. We smelled it with our windows up, driving by. And where we live on the 2 miles as the crow flies, on the prevailing wind side, we smell it all the time. I've smelled it 6 times in the last 2 months. So,
Yeah, so the phone number
I don't
is...
think you guys are being truthful. You're self-controlling, it doesn't work.
Well, I will tell you, we are being truthful. The odor complaint hotline number is 323-9537.
Can you say that again, please?
323-9537. Area code 802.
323-9537.
That is correct.
So you live in the area and you never smell?
I live in Durham, sir.
But you don't smell outside or driving into work or driving around?
I'm always doing
Other
patrols,
people
and if
I
I
work
detect
with
any
don't
odors,
ever
I'm
smell it, don't ever-
not going to say we never spill offsite odor. That's not the case. Absolutely not the case.
I mean, as a community member, would you report an offsite odor that you smell on your own?
Would I report an offsite odor that I was smelled in my facility on my own?
Yes. Why not?
Why would, well, if we smell an offsite
If you
odor,
smell something that ain't right.
hang on, let me answer the question, sir. If we smell an offsite odor, if we're doing our patrols and there is any odor, the first thing we do is get in contact with our operations staff and see what's going on. And then we respond to the odor complaint the odor appropriately to remediate whatever needs to be remediated. Now, a lot of times, what you can smell for odor can be a truck coming in or a truck leaving. So this summer, what we did as a response to that is we put in a truck spray system. So every empty truck leaving that has potential odor gets sprayed before it leaves the site. These are things that we're evolving as we go. We put in fence line sprayers just this year to try to spray so the active work face, from 4th of July, if you open your trash can, does it not smell? It smells funny, right? We have to contain that odor once it receives, we'll receive it on site. So we are actually putting in deodorizing spray systems around the entire site to make sure that we can try to contain those odors. So we are evolving as we go with these odor operations, and we're doing everything we possibly can to fix odor. And we want to hear from you, Rob. We want to hear from everybody so we can do that.
Well, I can add to that, it's not working. It stinks. I came from town at 4:30, driving by the landfill, and it stopped.
You need to call me. We've been communicating with you, Dan, about
You
calling
get
me.
tired.
This is horseshit, I can't fucking believe
All
it.
right, we had a question over here.
So like I said before, I've been in the solid waste business for 35 years in the Northeast Kingdom.
Can't hear here.
I've been in the solid waste business for 35 years in the Northeast Kingdom. I'm kind of intrigued by some of the conversation that's centered around environmental impact and what's being put into the landfill. And nobody is having a conversation about where this material is coming from. All the Vermonters are the cause of this waste. And that is getting worse as we develop as humans. I think about, has anybody heard of HelloFresh? The company, you can actually order your meal every day delivered to your house in a cardboard box, full of styrofoam, with dried ice, wrapped in plastic. When you're done with that meal, that box is completely trashed. Okay? I feel that the commission has no choice but to give this permit because we don't have another option. We don't have another sustainable option. This landfill won't be here forever. It is hindered by the airport and the airport road and the wetlands around it. So they're gonna run out of room, and we're gonna need another place. And I will guarantee everybody in this room that there will not be another landfill in the state of Vermont, simply because of the conversation that's happening in this room. Not in my backyard. It's totally contaminated. It's oozing into this field, that field, which is not the case. I've watched the systems be set up that, you know, Jeremy's being accused of lying. I've seen the truck spray system, the fence spray, all the work they do to try to mitigate any of the concerns. But at the end of the day, the bigger environmental problem here would be to not have a landfill. People can't afford to get rid of their waste now because it's so expensive to run these facilities, especially in a rural, poverty-stricken area like we have. You take the disposal facility out of it, and that material is going to end up over the bank. It's going to end up in that river that feeds into Lake Memphremagog. And I keep hearing about that, you know, I don't know, you must have some sort of facility up there that's doing something with the water out of Magog that you guys are drinking. Because when you were connecting your homes to this lake, we were filling Gardner Park with solid waste, which sits on an unlined landfill that sits on Memphremagog. There's an unlined landfill in Barton that sits on the Black River. All these things were being filled, and that's where humans disposed of waste, was in low-lying areas. Thank God we have a state-of-the-art facility that's being run by somebody like Casella, and it wasn't a facility like we had in Moortown, Vermont, that was poorly run. At the end of the day, this landfill will eventually close, and then what? Where are we going to go with the waste? There's no capacity in northern New Hampshire. That would make us bring it to the other side of Champlain into New York. The cost of that would be so severe that the Vermonters and businesses would not be able to absorb that. So I hear people constantly pointing fingers at Agency of Natural Resources. We don't trust you. We don't believe you. It's the largest state agency that we have, and we can't believe them. Somebody has to produce some data to show that what they're doing is wrong and that this facility is contaminating our environment, or you have no choice but to issue a permit.
I have some questions for the Agency of Natural Resources, if I may. Would you agree with me that over the years that there have been contaminants that you all have been in control of, and you set a standard, and then a couple of years later, or if the diseases are chronic or cause death 10 years later, you have to lower the standard that you set of, let's say, 10 parts per million to 5 parts per million, or trillion, because you find out subsequently that that is not a low enough standard.
In Vermont, we regulate groundwater to the groundwater enforcement standards, which we've adopted from the Department of Health Advisory.
And have you ever had to lower standard? In other words, arsenic at this level, but now, 10 years later, no, you can't have arsenic
The
at that
standards
level.
have been adjusted in both directions.
Pardon?
The standards have been adjusted in both directions.
And when you have an emergent contaminant like the PFOAs, well, we don't know for how long exactly they've been around, but you discovered recently that they're causing chronic diseases. Is that correct? And that's why a standard was set, which was a guess about what would be enough, low enough, not to cause cancer or thyroid disease or whatever. But it's the first guess.
I would not say it's a guess. It is a standard based off of the toxicological
But it could be
studies
that
have been-
20 years later, 20 years from now, we find that we have children with kidney cancer and thyroid diseases and all sorts of things. And we relate it eventually to the fact that they have been ingesting PFOAs. And at that point, you decide to lower it. You lower the amount of PFOA. Is that
Our
correct?
standards are based off of the best available information.
But in this case, you could prevent, you could be precautionary and the commission can be precautionary, and they could say, you know, all we need to do is not let leachate go through some of these waste treatment plants and dump PFOAs into the lake, because clearly they're not getting the PFOAs out in these waste treatment plants. And that would prevent children in Canada and children who swim in our area near the Clyde never getting any of those diseases. Isn't that right?
Our standards, I would say, are conservative. They are for PFAS, so we look at the group of 5 PFAS compounds for the standard. Our standard for both the health advisory that's issued by the Vermont Health Department that we've adopted as the groundwater enforcement standard is 20 parts per trillion, significantly lower than the federal standard and many of the other standards adopted. And that's based off of the quite conservative brackets that the health department puts around the setting of the all of
in the past, that's been wrong, and you've had to look, not for PFOA, because that's really emergency, but in the past, whatever standard you set, would have been wrong and you've lowered it. Is that correct?
It's been adjusted based off of updated toxicological information.
I guess the second thing I wanted to say is that while the city of Newport has been mentioned here as a party, there are many residents of Newport who do not appreciate leachate going through our water management plant. I don't want you to get the idea that the mayor speaks for every single citizen of Newport, and we don't appreciate an extension of the landfill. And I just wanted to let you know.
Well, town meeting's coming up, you can write a warrant article.
Pardon?
Town meeting is coming right up.
No, we did. It's funny you should mention that. We got 260 signatures on 2 petitions, one to stop the leachate and one to stop the expansion. And on Monday, our council voted that because these things were not things that technically the residents of Newport could actually vote on, that they would not put those petitions on the ballot. So we tried.
And even more, because we citizens were too stupid to understand the conflicting information on the ballot. So,
Got a question here?
actually, I have 2 questions. One was to A&R, because it's part 2 of the question that was asked earlier. What happens to the recommendations that were in the permit in 2004 that have not been followed up on so far? I'm talking about the transfer of the cellular loop, the unlined cell, which was a condition, I think. And studies have been made about it, and I guess nothing happened after that. I assume it was probably cost prohibitive, but then nothing happens. This is one of the preoccupations and concerns that we had at the MRC, asking for new studies to be made with 2 sites, 2 options for a treatment plant on-site and 2 off-site. But it's not just the study to be made. There has to be follow-up on it afterwards. Whatever happens, 4 studies made, 2 studies made, do something with one of them. Not just say, we did the study, and then nothing happens. That's one of the concerns. And for the rest of you, there is a solution to extend the life of the site. We do it in Quebec, and we do it in Canada. We select our garbage. We recycle and we compost. Not everything goes in the landfill. And so by doing that, we extend the life of the landfill site, and we recuperate and we retrieve and we re-employ materials that can be used, plastic and glass and metal and so on. So this is a way, rather than just landfill it, you can recycle it into something with it. And I know it's not all over the state, and I don't mean to certainly not.
Actually, made me wrong. It is state law that
Some
these materials are
here
banned.
that's maybe not done so well.
What's that?
No curbside pickup?
Yes, curbside pickup
So
is
there
mandatory.
are different things.
No, that's mandatory. It's state law that
Okay,
you can buy
but
curbside.
how does it still end up in the landfill? Sorry.
67%
Have you been there to see it?
How much?
67%, I believe, of what's put in the landfill can be composted and recycled.
Thank you.
Go ahead. You have it? All right.
Okay, so I had some questions for the solid waste district of solid waste people of A&R, but I would just like to read a Vermont statute and point a couple of things out. So I'm going to cite as 24 VSA 2202A, which talks about municipality responsibility for solid waste. Municipalities are responsible for the management and regulation of the storage, collection, processing, disposal of solid waste within their districts in conformance with the state solid waste management plan authorized under 10 VSA Chapter 159. Municipalities may issue exclusive local franchises and may make, amend, or repeal rules necessary to manage the storage, collection, processing, the disposal of solid waste materials within their limits and impose penalties for violations thereof, provided that the rules are consistent with the state plan. The rules adopted by the Secretary of Natural Resources under 10 VSA Chapter 159. A fine may not exceed $1,000 for each violation. This section shall not be construed to permit the existence of a nuisance. So Coventry is its own solid waste district. We do not have a solid waste district board, and our SWIP committee is appointed by the select board. And how many solid waste, how many SWIP meetings have we had in the last 2 years?
That really, speaking for Coventry, I'm sorry, it has nothing to do with the landfill expansion. That's an issue for the town of Coventry. We are in compliance with our solid waste plan. We are following the statute because we are not the ones handling the trash. We are following the guidelines set by the state for our residents to say that they need to recycle and they need to follow the universal recycling law. But our SWIP committee and the way we handle it internally has nothing to do with this hearing, the leachate, or the permit expansion.
But it says that it says the municipality's responsibilities for solid waste. This is the state's position on this. This is an actual statute.
You know, we're really far down.
Yeah, I know, well, you're right.
So I'm just concerned about the oversight.
That's nothing we have anything to do with at all.
The oversight is nothing.
Not Act 250 now. No.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Paul, I gave you lots of chances to talk tonight. I'd rather have them show up at your meeting and respond. I like to be a fly on the wall. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was listening to the Canadian representative from MCI, and I don't think anybody really answered this question. What is the landfill doing for Canadians? And I got to thinking, we've got two big lakes in the state, both straddle the international border. One is Lake Champlain, and we have a gem here in Lake Micronesia, which we need to appreciate. How about if the waters in Lake Champlain were to flow south? And how about if the Quebecers had a 129-acre landfill on the Quebec side? And all the, and it was at that severe angle and so huge, so that it's subject to collapse or avalanche, and leachate treated there, and the effluent going down to Lake Champlain, the Shelburne, the Burlington, to the richest part of our state. Would they be as courteous as the Canadians have been here tonight? It's just an interesting parallel. And Lake Champlain has less Vermonters receiving it, and it's also considered a drinking water source, than the Canadians. The Canadians' population exceeds Vermont's population around Lake Champlain, probably by maybe 100%, probably 50%, but certainly exceeds it. 10%.
Thank you.
I think we want to answer to this.
Someone who not had a chance to speak.
I would like to answer that one. I think there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Lake Champlain I don't remember how many years ago, we had an issue because it was closed by a bridge on the United States side. And there was a discussion between both countries, and the American accept to modify that blocked road, and they made a bridge. So in order for the water to flow, so that solved the issue. So what I see is there's a potential collaboration, and I think that we should keep going forward with more collaboration and looking at different issues to solve the problem. I have one question, so if today, let's say Coventry doesn't exist, and we look for a landfill, with today regulation and best practice, would Coventry be an option for Canadian or for American? The answer is probably no. So if I look at the potential expansion of the site, I could consider an expansion as a new landfill. So that's the point I want to make on that.
Go ahead.
I have a question for A&R. We're going to live with this landfill, regardless if it's expanded or not, for a long time. It's not going away. And I want to know what you're going to do for outreach to assure us that it's not a health risk, that it's not a problem. And that benefits us as well as it does the Casella Corporation. And I want to say, the only outreach I've seen you do is with the Casella Corporation, is partners, going out to the council or going to the select board meetings. We need to be assured by our regulators that they're complying. We pay taxes for that, just like they pay taxes for truck registrations. And you guys, and I don't mean you personally, but the Agency of Natural Resources has done a pretty poor job of outreach. And I hope the commission will make that one of the conditions for a possible, for right now. Now, I don't even want to talk about today, because there's a real problem that you're not addressing. Responsiveness to odors, testing, being assured. We need to know that you're on our side and not on, I don't know what side. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, do that.
Can I get a second?
I want to make sure, because we're not coming back Thursday. Yeah?
I wasn't planning on saying anything, but after listening, I have a few questions and a few comments outside of Derby. I'm a resident of Derby, and even though we do not receive any monetary compensation as Coventry residents or Newport residents do, we are severely affected by the hosting a landfill. We have to deal with the odors. I live in Derby. I live across from the lake. I have a beautiful view, which is changing. We have to deal with the sights. Also the sounds. I hear, I see the dust. We deal with the odors. Derby residents are affected and other communities are affected. And I learned that Derby, I want the committee to realize that there are other communities that are affected by consequences of hosting a landfill, labeled for them to make money, that are in opposition. The Derby Council has voted to oppose the expansion, and will be writing a letter to the Act 2 Commission. I believe Barton has as well. So I want the committee to be aware of that. Also, there has been, I believe, an increase in complaints for odors. We have been trying to do research actively, and think it's a matter of getting the word out. I've lived here all my life, and I believe a lot of people are complacent with the fact that living next to a landfill, you have to endure the odors. I didn't realize that any odor that leaves the premises of the landfill, their actual boundaries, is a violation until I read their statute. So I myself had been complacent. I thought it was just a consequence of living next to a landfill, and it is not. So I myself have been calling. So I think the frustration is that, first of all, we didn't know who to call. We would call them, and up until this new permit, there was no requirement to report that. So I believe that the odor complaints have been woefully underreported. I believe that's being addressed now because they have to report every single call to the ANR now. However, when you call, the frustration is, I didn't realize you needed another witness. So typically you're with your family. And the people that they call to confirm that there's an issue is the landfill. So I don't know any other industry where we have to not only deal with the consequences, we have to police it. And when we report a violation, who did they call to confirm the violation? The person, the actual company that violation they're being accused of. So we call, and then they call the landfill, they're being accused of this violation. They call and say, well, can you confirm that you violated this condition? It's kind of a frustrating practice. Thirdly, we are being asked to police this. I know no other industry or private company where we are not only have to endure the risks, both known and unknown, as we have seen these emerging group of chemicals, endure the nuisances, and also have bear the burden of policing them. So the big concern I have for the future is, I read that there is a fund that is after they close. After they close, this, whatever garbage from all over the state, all over the tri-county area, will be here for hundreds and thousands of years. It will. It's being covered, it's being capped, there's very little air, so that the time that it's going to take to decompose and break down is hundreds of years. The fund that I understand is $31 million for 30 years post-closure. In the previous approval, back in 2004, they were going to monitor it for 50 years. I don't understand why it's now less years that they have to monitor after the closure, and it's only for monitoring. It's just for testing. If there's a problem, there's no fund set aside to deal with any problem. So first of all, I'd love to know how they came up with that figure, why they think it's adequate, and why there isn't any money set aside for in case there is some catastrophe. You never know. I'd like to see that aggressively funded, a fund set aside, so in case there's something that happens, that we know we're not setting up our children to deal with a catastrophic problem, that there's no money to deal with. Casella will be gone, and that's my understanding that ANR said the state will have to take care of anything. This is a real, and I think serious problem that no resources will be available when Casella is closed at whatever time that is. The money is for monitoring only, is my understanding, and not for anything that needs to be collected, which I assume would be really expensive to go in there and fix a line or whatever.
So the town of Bearby filed a letter today?
I believe so. That's what I heard. They were writing a letter today.
Yeah, if you have any other questions for me.
So they voted on the 14th, I believe.
So it came in, I think I mentioned to one of you, at 4 o'clock today, 4:30, as I was sitting here, I forwarded it to everyone. It says, we're closing the landfill.
Yeah.
I'm Lindsay Sargent from Barton's, and
Barton Town also, the selectmen also are sending a letter. I think they're waiting for the signature from one. I wanted to respond to your comment earlier you're from the Northeast Kingdom Waste Solid Waste Management District. The comment was we should make sure the permit is granted because Vermont doesn't have any other options. And that's, I think, what got me really interested in this. I kind of was really surprised, number one, to hear about the expansion, which we did as I'm a member of the advisory board of Dump. We did hear late because we didn't see any kind of advertisement. I was a little legal comment in the newspaper. So now that we know, I've really been looking at this and going and talking with people that I know in Montpelier just to kind of see what the background is of other people that used to be on the Agency of Natural Resources or on the NRC. And I spoke with Tony Klein, who used to be the chair of the Natural Resources Committee on the Senate. And he said back when in the day when they were discussing the solid waste program, they said that they never planned to have one landfill in Vermont. And for me to look at this now and see that we have one landfill in the northeastern corner, which requires all of the transportation to go back and forth many times a day. We calculated 19,632 miles just from the transfer stations, not leachate tanks, not recycling, nothing like that. And so when I look at that, and I know Vermont is really seriously concerned, and Act 250 is going to be going in this direction too, about climate change, that we have so much diesel emissions and other emissions from the garbage fleet, the trash fleet as Tom called it. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. Why did we come up with an idea where you have, all this traffic going this way and that, plus the 27% that comes from out of state, which is in addition, which is industrial waste, which is much more seriously concerning to me. There are a lot of things we can do. We've been talking about how to try to make sure that our waste is diminished by the recycling, by the composting.
I understand what you're saying.
Oh, it's not a question.
Okay, it's not really anything that we can do anything about. We're not here to come up with alternative ways to handle trash. I love what they do in Edmonton, Alberta, with their trash. Okay, and I think we're winding down here. And don't think that the time bomb scenario doesn't weigh heavy on this commission and the applicant, everyone in this room. We think about that. I read this testimony over and over again. And my first thought was, how can I get out of this? Can I just resign now? So don't think we take this luck out. Okay, so I'm not going to keep you here any longer. I'm going to head back to Canyon, and I thank you all very much for coming out, and I appreciate everything you've done.